All right, let's go to this because this story makes me smile. One of the big questions, and I've had this conversation with some reporters who have been reporting on this story, the Chris Christie bridge scandal. Now, of course, there are other investigations about other shenanigans involved with the Port Authority and the Christie administration, et cetera, et cetera. But in terms of the bridge scandal, one of the big questions was there any federal statutes that were violated? It has always seemed to me that it wouldn't be hard to make that case, if only because the bridge crossed state lines. It is a bi-state, interstate agency, the Port Authority. And so one would imagine that federal statutes, Commerce Clause, violated, et cetera, et cetera. Well, now we seem to have at least an indication that the feds believe that federal statutes are in play. Not necessarily who broke the law or that a law was necessarily broken, but that federal statutes apply here, and so that it does appear that a federal law was broken. Because according to ABC on Friday, a federal grand jury investigation has been set up. Miles Feinstein, a veteran defense attorney who's been monitoring developments, says, in this particular case, there have been questions as to whether or not there is federal jurisdiction. In other words, have any federal laws been violated? I would have to think that if they now have a grand jury to investigate Bridgegate and perhaps other allegations, at the very least, it's been determined there are federal statutes that may or may not have been violated. That's very important. And according to Esquire today, sources close to the investigation say that David Wildstein has been cooperating with Paul Fishman, the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey. And on ABC, like I mentioned, reported that the grand jury has been called. Michael Druniak, press secretary to Chris Christie, testified before that grand jury. On Sunday night, the website Maine Justice, according to TPM, reported that Wildstein was camped at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Newark last week. So this would seem to indicate that David Wildstein, the guy who was at the heart of this, the guy who received a new job created by Chris Christie at the Port Authority, paying six-figure salary to do what we don't know, really, may be cooperating with the feds. So, again, this is not really a political story anymore. It is a criminal story. The politics involved here are, if I'm reading this, then maybe not Sheldon Adelson cares that much, but other people in the high stakes, the sort of silent Republican presidential primary, wherein big funders decide who they're going to back, have to be thinking like, am I really, now that I don't have any sunk costs in Chris Christie, am I really going to start pouring money into this guy? Not only could it waste my money, because this guy may be in a federal penitentiary by the time the primaries roll around, but B, am I going to hurt other similarly situated candidates by hyping Chris Christie at this point when there's a chance he may not even be able to, he's DOA. So Chris Christie's political prospects looking a little bit dimmer, but I think I was very explicit 2 days after this story broke that his aspirations for the presidential election in 2016 not gonna happen. So I, for one, couldn't be happier. And I would like to see that grand jury indict a ham sandwich and then bring in Chris Christie to sit down and try and eat that ham sandwich.
But keep them separated so
Right.
you can only see it. You can't actually touch it. I think what's amazing about it is also just his hubris. Like, even the personal pettiness of how he treated David Wildstein. Because these things that are relatively small play a big role. I mean,
Well, it gives an indication of just like,
that's his mentality, and nothing can stop it. I mean, there's not even
I
the
think once
check.
this broke, he had to go all in.
He didn't need to go all in with, I didn't hang out with that loser in high school. I'm saying there is an element of just such an overabundant. What?
Maybe it's
Maybe
true.
it's true. Well, apparently it was.
Maybe
Apparently it was not true. Apparently he was not just dunking Wildstein's face in a toilet. They were actually buddies.
Well, but
I'm
maybe
just-
Wildstein was a loser.